Hi, my name is Lauren Hayes, and I want to share the story of the day that completely changed my life. On April 12th, 2012, I was in a car accident so severe that I shouldn't have survived. But what happened during those moments when my body lay lifeless was nothing short of miraculous. It was a typical Thursday afternoon, and I was driving to run a few errands. My car wasn't anything fancy. It was an old sedan that made strange noises whenever I started it. But it was reliable enough for getting me around town. That day, the sun was shining, and I remember thinking how beautiful the weather was for early April. As I drove along a winding back road, I felt a momentary sense of peace. I had the windows rolled down, and the cool breeze was refreshing. Then, out of nowhere, the back tires of my car skidded on some loose gravel. I tried to regain control, but it was too late. The car veered off the road and began rolling down a steep embankment. The sound of the crash was deafening. Glass shattered, metal crunched, and my body was thrown violently as the car flipped over and over. I can't remember how many times it rolled, but I'll never forget the sensation of being completely out of control. In the chaos, something strange happened. I felt a warmth on the back of my head, like someone was cradling it gently, protecting me. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but deep down, I knew it was real. It felt just like my father's hands. He passed away when I was in my 20s, but in that moment, I was certain it was him. Finally, the car came to a stop, landing upside down in a patch of brush. Everything was silent, and for a moment, I thought it was all over. But then I realized something incredible. I wasn't in my body anymore. I was hovering above the scene, watching everything unfold as if I were an observer. I saw my car, completely mangled, with the roof crushed and the windows shattered. Inside, I could see my body slumped over the steering wheel, motionless. At first, I didn't recognize it as my own body. It felt so separate from me, like it was just an empty shell. There was no fear, no pain, just a profound sense of peace and detachment. What struck me most was how clear and vivid everything looked. My vision was sharper than it had ever been, even though I've worn glasses my entire life. I could see the tiniest details, the shards of glass glinting in the sunlight, the texture of the gravel where the car had come to rest, even the individual blades of grass swaying in the breeze. The sounds around me were just as vivid. I could hear the distant chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, and even the faint hum of the wind. It was as if all my senses had been amplified, like I was experiencing the world on a whole new level. What's even harder to describe is the sense of awareness I had in that moment. I didn't just see and hear things, I felt them. I could sense the life in the trees, the energy of the earth beneath me, and the interconnectedness of everything around me. Time felt different too. It wasn't linear like it is in our daily lives. Instead, it felt like everything was happening all at once, yet it made perfect sense. I wasn't bound by the constraints of my physical body or the ticking of a clock. Even though I was outside of my body, I didn't feel lost or confused. In fact, I felt more alive than I ever had before. It was as if I had been carrying around a heavy weight my entire life. And suddenly it was lifted. As I hovered there, looking down at the scene, I started to realize just how free I felt. All the stress, worry, and pain that I had carried with me in life were gone. The burdens I didn't even know I was holding on to had simply melted away. I remember thinking, is this what it feels like to let go? Is this what it's like to truly be free? It was a kind of peace that I had never experienced before, and it filled me with an overwhelming sense of gratitude. At the same time, I began to feel something else, a pull, like I was being drawn toward something greater. That's when I noticed the light. As I floated above the wreckage, something caught my attention. In the distance, there was a light, soft at first, like the faint glow of a candle. But as I focused on it, the light grew brighter and more inviting. It wasn't like the harsh glare of a flashlight or the sun. It was warm, soothing, and alive. This light felt like it was calling me, not with words, but with a sense of peace and love that was impossible to resist. The more I focused on it, the more I felt myself being drawn toward it. I didn't move in the way we think of moving. I wasn't walking or flying. It was more like the light was pulling me gently, almost as if it were embracing me from a distance. As I got closer, I realized this wasn't just light, it was alive. It was a presence that radiated love, acceptance, and an overwhelming sense of belonging. The best way I can describe it is that it felt like coming home after being away for a very long time. The closer I got, the more the world around me seemed to fade away. I wasn't thinking about the car accident, my body, or even the wreckage below. All I could focus on was the light and the incredible sense of peace it gave me. Finally, I reached the light. And that's when everything changed. Standing in the center of the light was a figure, a being of pure love and compassion. At first, I didn't know who it was, but as I got closer, I realized it was Jesus. He didn't look like the paintings or sculptures I'd seen in churches. His presence wasn't about physical features, it was about what I felt. His love was so overwhelming, so all-encompassing, that I knew without a doubt it was him. When he looked at me, I felt completely known. Every part of me, my joys, my struggles, my mistakes, was laid bare before him. But there was no judgment in his eyes, only love. He smiled at me and said, "Lauren, you are loved. You always have been, and you always will be." As I stood there in his presence, Jesus showed me my life. It wasn't like watching a movie. It was more immersive, like I was reliving moments from my past. He showed me times when I had been kind and loving, moments when I had helped a friend, comforted someone in need, or shown patience and understanding. In those moments, I felt the joy and gratitude of the people I had touched, as if their emotions were my own. But he also showed me moments when I had been selfish, angry, or unkind. I felt the hurt I had caused others, not as a punishment, but as a way to understand the impact of my actions. Through it all, Jesus never condemned me. He simply helped me see my life through his eyes, with love, compassion, and truth. He said, "Every choice you make matters. Love is the most important thing you can give." Then Jesus showed me something even more profound. It was as if the entire universe opened up before me. I saw how every person, every action, and every choice is connected in ways we can't fully understand. He explained, "Everything you do creates ripples that affect others. When you act with love, those ripples spread light throughout the world, but when you act out of fear or anger, the ripples create darkness." I saw how even the smallest acts of kindness, a smile, a kind word, or a simple gesture, can have a profound impact. Those small acts can change someone's day, their life, or even their eternity. At some point, Jesus told me it wasn't my time to stay. He said, "Lauren, your work on earth isn't finished. You have a purpose to fulfill, and there are people who need to hear your story." I didn't want to leave. Being in his presence was the most beautiful, peaceful experience I had ever known. I begged to stay, but Jesus reassured me, "You are never alone. I will be with you always, guiding you and giving you strength." With that, I felt myself being pulled away from the light. It was gentle, but there was a sense of finality, like I was being sent back to complete a mission. As I felt myself leaving the light, I was filled with a mixture of emotions. On one hand, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay in that place of love and peace forever. But on the other hand, I trusted Jesus completely. If he was sending me back, it was for a reason. The light began to fade, and the physical world slowly came back into focus. The peace and warmth I had felt were replaced by the heaviness of my body. My chest ached, my head throbbed, and every muscle felt sore. I opened my eyes to see flashing lights and paramedics surrounding me. One of them said, "We thought we lost you." I later learned that I had been clinically dead for nearly 7 minutes. The days and weeks after the accident were some of the hardest of my life. I had multiple injuries that required surgery and months of physical therapy, but through it all, I held on to the experience I had with Jesus. It became my anchor, giving me strength and hope even on the darkest days. My recovery wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. I started to see life in a completely different way. The things I used to stress about, the little annoyances, the daily grind, didn't seem so important anymore. Instead, I began to focus on what really mattered: loving others, being present, and living with purpose. I also realized that I had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to share what I had learned. Jesus had shown me the incredible power of love, kindness, and faith, and I knew I couldn't keep that to myself. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: you are loved more than you can imagine. No matter where you are in life, no matter what mistakes you've made, God's love for you is unconditional. Every moment of your life matters. Every choice you make, whether it's to show kindness, forgive someone, or offer a helping hand, has an impact far beyond what you can see. And remember, you are never alone. Jesus is with you, guiding you, and offering his love and grace at every step of your journey. I hope my story has inspired you to reflect on your own life. Are you living with love and purpose? Are you focusing on what truly matters? If not, it's never too late to start. Take a moment today to pray, to seek God, and to open your heart to his love. Even a small step can make a big difference. If my story has touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need encouragement. And if you'd like to hear more stories like mine, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment below. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, you are loved, you are seen, and you are never alone. May God bless you and guide you always.